Today on Beyond the Art, we step into the world of Kaleb Lee, a Diné beadwork artist whose creativity began at just 10 years old. His beadwork is more than art. It is lineage, love, and the gratitude he holds for those who lifted him up. This is Beyond the Art with Kaleb Lee.
Kaleb, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you started beading at the age of 10. It's so young. It's you've been doing this your whole life. What drew you to it, and what do you remember most about those early days beading with your sister and your auntie?
What I really remember is that we were on our way to a powwow in Washington, and we were actually traveling by car, so we did the long drive. It was really when my sister started working at the hotel because we did like 2 trips to Washington, and I just seen her working, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she told me what she was doing, and she actually just showed me right then and there and asked her, "Can you teach me more?" And she actually pulled out extra thread and needle and started showing me how she does it. Of course, starting out, you're not going to be the best at it, but practice makes up for everything. And that's where I really started. I was more drawn to the fact that you can actually make stuff with the beads, like designs, and just really, how you say, just really drawn to the fact that you can do art with not only with just like pen or a paintbrush, but also with beads with a thread and needle. That's what I was really more drawn into.
Okay. And of course, growing up and traveling to all these different powwows, you were exposed to many different styles and patterns. How did those experiences shape your approach to beadwork today?
Um, what I would say that the stories behind them, because every pattern always has a story, and each design really has more meaning to it. It's not just like something that you just slap onto something and say like, "Hey, this is so and so design." I was more drawn into the stories behind it because as a Diné from Tuba City, we have our own stories behind our rugs and a lot of our patterns that we do, our storm patterns and chief blanket designs. We have a lot of stories with that, and I was always like drawn into the story. I wasn't. I was always intrigued by the design, but I always wanted to know more about the story behind it,
Mm.
including when it comes to florals too.
Okay. Uh, because I love how you've embraced the techniques, not just from your own Diné people, but from other tribes as well, like the Cree. How has that exchange of knowledge influenced your style?
It's really helped with my versatility when it comes to art. As someone who's mixed with other tribes and also has friends from other nations, also, I learned from them, and we teach each other our patterns. And one of my adopted families from Pigeon Lake, Canada, they they really give me more teachings on their ways over there. And I always, whenever we have the opportunity, whenever we see each other, because we see each other probably like 2, 3 times a year, we always like have those types of talks.
Mm.
And so that's really what helps me become, I wouldn't say like a better artist, but it helps me with the more understandings behind everything. Because I really want to know more about the meanings. I don't really want to just like get into it and not know what I'm working with.
Mhm.
So I really was just getting more information. So that way I understand it more and I don't just go into it blindly.
Yeah. I loved what you said about how beading is so much more than just art. That it's storytelling, and it has this connection to the past and to our culture. What keeps you inspired and passionate about beading after all these years?
Not only is it with our ancestors that hold a lot of inspiration because they are the original artists of this generation and also past generations, but they are also people that had been through a lot. Our people have suffered through a lot of tribulations, I guess you can say. Just a lot of horrible things, and just everything that they've worked on, which is passed down to today's world. That was really the inspiration because of how long everything has lasted since it probably like 1800s, even probably way before that also. But that was one of the inspirations. But I have inspirations that's outside of our culture too. I would say my guilty pleasure is actually Disney films. So I grew up watching like Disney and Pixar films and everything. Like I've always been drawn to that. And
Mhm.
so there's always been some inspiration behind that, not only with like the colors, but a certain story behind it. So I've always like had that moment of like it Disney claims to be magical. I at least want to have some sort of like flow of that within my work, whether it has to do with like sparkles or like very special materials that I like to use. So that's really what the inspiration is. But also like I have other inspirations also, like not just by our people and Disney, but also artists that I've come in contact with over the years, like Jamie Okuma, Lauren Goodday, Elias Not Afraid, Osarong. Like a lot of those artists inspire me a lot in how they're so intricate and detailed, and there's just so much behind it. And I have to really applaud them for that because without them, I probably wouldn't be the better artist I am today than I was when I was a teenager.
Yeah. Uh, First off, I know of quite a few of those folks, and that's an impressive list for sure. Um, thinking back to when you were creating some of your Disney inspired images, what was the response from your family and friends when they saw that you were branching maybe away from traditional designs into more creative contemporary pieces? What was that feedback like for you?
Of course, they were they were intrigued by it because the fact that as natives we kind of have a problem with some Disney things like the Pocahontas backstory, but I've never really paid attention to that movie specifically. I know better than to like really get into that when it comes to my art. I would they were all like pretty sure um like intrigued by the fact that Disney was one of my inspirations. And it wasn't
Mhm.
just like based off of like really a lot of the stories. It was more like color patterns and structures. It was really around that.
Mm.
And um they were I wouldn't say like they had a problem with it because I highly doubt that they would, but
Mhm.
um they were really amazed by the fact that I brought in like today's contemporary art and the old art in that form, especially when it's Disney and natives too. Because
Mhm.
within Disney, we're very underrepresented there. But when it comes to Pocahontas, that's where people think that we're more represented. But in general, like we're very underrepresented in Disney. So as someone who is Indian, I would say like I try to bring my own representation to Disney, not Disney bringing representation to me, basically.
No, that's a great point. I do imagine that your family was probably pretty excited, when they saw that you were sort of branching away from sort of the traditional expectations of what beading is, and sort of making it your own with your own voice. Like that had to have been exciting for your family members to see that
It
growth.
it was for a while. One of my old pieces that I did for one of the markets down here was kind of inspired by Cinderella by the shoulder pads, the epaulets, I guess you
Mm,
can
mhm,
say. That
mhm,
was one pretty obvious inspiration that came from that. And that was one of probably the most Disneyest things I've ever done, but I've always had like some sort of like influence of like colors, um like not just by Disney princess films, but like I said, Pixar, so like Toy Story colors, or even just branching off to like Cars, even Inside Out too, which is one of my favorite Disney show or movies, I should say. Yes. So
Yeah, yeah. Uh, your beadwork feels deeply personal, yet incredibly inclusive. How do you approach creating pieces that resonate with your own culture while honoring the influences that you've picked up along the way?
um that's actually a really good question. I would say that it really has to do with going back to my roots as as a Native American here in Arizona. We have 22 federally recognized tribes there, so there's some influence from that, especially with the current world that we're living in, where it feels like we're being threatened a lot of the time. Um, I've always felt like every piece has to be my last piece.
Mm,
And because you never know with this world. It's pretty dark the way I'm putting it, but I've always just been like, well, at least something has a deep meaning behind it. I'm not just going into it blindly, even if it's just I guess you could say a pair of earrings. But in general, I've been more into doing the bigger projects like beading outfits for powwows or doing stuff for art markets. Like I've always been drawn to that as of lately, doing bigger
mm,
projects. So I've always tried to hold like a deeper meaning behind it. I just don't want to really do something and then never get back to it and then regret not going back to it later on. So that's
yeah.
really what I'm trying to say. It sounded pretty dark the way I worded it earlier, but um it's really much of something like once I start it, I have to finish it. Like we don't know what the future holds these days, especially when it comes to all of us being in society.
True. Yeah. C'est la vie, right?
Yeah.
So, are there any particular designs or symbols that hold a lot of meaning for you?
I would say as a Diné, I would say our chief blanket designs. I really got into those when I was probably like late teens. I wouldn't say early 20s, but I started doing them more in my early 20s, but my late teens because um of the fact that our people as Navajos, as Diné, we also had some turmoil within our tribe and stuff that has happened to people also. Um, I've always just really looked at those patterns, especially during like our harsh winters that we had to really fight through, especially during the long walk. It was one of those types of things, like the fact that our patterns have really deep meanings behind it, and then also like not just from a Diné standpoint, but also like um when it comes to my family in Canada with their florals too. I've always found their florals very beautiful, amazing. I've always been drawn to that, and those I would say those two really hold meanings behind it because that's I wouldn't say got me more into market recognition because that'd be like the wrong thing to say. Um, I would say like it really helped me get more recognition as someone who just not only does those two things, but holds does other things behind the scenes too, not just florals and chief blanket designs. But I've beaded animals before and other tribes' florals, and I've always took pride in that because I didn't like I said I didn't go into it blindly. I've always liked to learn about it. So um not only do those but other designs hold me to be a better artist, but also like my main two, florals and geometrics, especially when it comes from the Diné and the Crees up in Canada.
Hmm. Hmm. What has been the most challenging or intricate piece that you've ever made, and what made it so special?
The most challenging, by design, I would say I beaded a bear standing up, and it was wearing beadwork. And it was on a breastplate, and it was beaded on, I believe, elk or moose hide. And beading through that hide was kind of difficult because I chose the thickest part of the hide to bead on. um, so that was probably one of the most difficult things I had to do because not only was I trying to get the details in, but my needle was always breaking going through the hide, and especially the interfacing underneath that. That was probably one of my most difficult because I beaded animals, like I said, but I've never been like fully detailed with it. I'm still learning to become more detailed and such. But the bear was probably like my most detailed piece ever. So that was probably like my most challenging by design, but with time, by time, the most challenging would have to be doing beadwork for my sister,
Hmm.
like a full outfit, and that was difficult.
How long did that take, would you say?
I would say her outfit took about a month to do,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I've always been someone who tried to bead on deer hide and elk hide and moose hide a lot more, because that's what our original beadwork is really beaded on, is on hides.
Hmm.
And so I really wanted to do a smoke tight outfit for my sister, like beaded like our not only our traditional designs, but also our adopted Cree side in there too also, and also a beaded hummingbird. So always me picking the thickest side of the hide to be on, so that cut into a lot of it. My fingers were cut up by the final stitch and everything. Like it was worth it, but it was very difficult. So yeah.
Wow. 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 So yeah, you know, you've mentioned being encouraged by not just your family, but by other artists. Can you share a moment where someone's encouragement really made a big difference for you?
I would have to say, it would have to be with Elias Not Afraid at Herd Market, because I had told him about stuff that happened at Santa Fe Indie Market. I was actually selling shirts at Santa Fe Indie Market, and the board told me to stop selling them. So that kind of brought a little bit discouragement, because I've always thought like, well, it's market, you're supposed to show off what you can do. And then just talking to him and also learning more about him, that was like a more inspiration and more of a push for me, because it was not only like me telling him what happened, but it was him encouraging me to just keep doing what I'm doing. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, type of thing. And I've always had that thought for a while, but hearing it from someone that's inspired me a lot also helps. So that was one of those moments where he actually was giving me more advice, from not only from a friend standpoint, but from artist to artist standpoint.
Those are incredible words, and what an experience to be able to have with him in that. Of course, you know it seems like it must have been very stressful to get that news.
It Yes and no. Yes, because it since it's Santa Fe Indie Market, it's about showing off your art and showing off why you're an artist and why all these things behind it. But it was also kind of my fault too. I didn't read the other new um rules to it. You're supposed to sell within your category. And then the whole weekend I was just selling shirts, and then the last day you're like, you can't be selling that. And I was like, okay. But then and then me and my sister, we were getting mad. We're like, well, these guys are selling that type of stuff. Like you were getting upset about it. And then we're like, okay, well, I guess it's really my fault. I should have like read the rules better. But Elias was still there to like help me
Yeah.
like with that part. But he's just in general like a really good person, a really amazing person. I love everything he does, all that stuff.
That's one of the beautiful things about our community is the mentorship and the kindness from so many other artists that are here for sure. Who are some of the artists that have inspired you along the way, and what have you learned from watching them work with their dedication?
Of course, Jamie Okuma. She was one of the very first artists that I actually caught my eye that wasn't really powwow oriented, because hers is more about like fashion and jewelry making, and I've always been drawn to her work. She was one of my biggest inspirations. I've had the chance to talk to her several times, interact with her, and she's just an amazing person to really be around and learn from, especially when you're not talking about art with her. Somehow, like, she finds that way to talk to you about it. And
Mm.
that and in general, like, her work is like very amazing, very detailed. Her use of antique micro beads and everything have always been such a major inspiration for me, and I've really enjoyed her work. I've known her work for quite a while. I would say, like, I remember my aunt Jacinta bought a pair of dentalium earrings from her, and I've always like enjoyed her earrings because she uses like these really rare dentalium shells.
Mm.
And so I believe after she showed me those earrings, I got more into the rest of her work, into her beadwork and everything. So I've really been influenced by Jamie. Her inspiration has not only helped me become a better artist, but it's helped me kind of get out of that comfort zone and be animals a little bit more, and do other structures with florals and everything. She is one of my inspirations. My aunts, Jacinta and Jayshawn Sosi, they're also very well-known artists, award-winning artists, I should say. And they've they've helped me a lot with my art journey, and they've really talked to me about stuff, about like what they use, what they do, and everything. So they've really been an inspiration. Alay is not afraid, of course, because like everything that he does is like magic. I've just been so drawn into his work. I remember I was 16 or 17 when I between 16 and 19, let's just put it like that. Like, I was really drawn into his work, and he's really made a name for himself. And he does a lot of elk teeth, and I love elk teeth too. So I've always been inspired by his usage, right now only like sewing down elk teeth to beadwork or making a necklace out of it, but he's done a bunch of other stuff with it. So that was pretty cool of how he does his stuff. I would say my sister Blythe also. She's what really got me into this, and she's always been one of my supporters, my biggest supporters, someone who's encouraged me, and she's always shown me different ways to do stuff. And without her, I probably wouldn't even be beating or making a career out of it. Like, she's been that type of inspiration for me, and I've
Mm.
always enjoyed that.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Mm. What advice would you give a young beater or artist who's just starting out and that they're looking for their voice or their style?
You're always gonna run into people that are gonna try and tell you otherwise. You're always gonna be told that, "Why'd you use this color? Why are you using these designs?" You're always gonna get told that. However, at the end of the day, it's how you respond to it. You don't have to respond to it at all, and if you respond to it, it's best to approach it respectfully.
Mm.
Um, your art is your voice. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise when it comes to that. Even if it's just, a simple flower, like, it's really how you approach the art also. And if you love it, then that's what you love, and if you feel like you need to fix something, go ahead and fix it. Like, it's like you have so much time to do it, but also, since you're young, you have a lot of time to do that also. The advice that I would probably give myself when I was younger was it's going to be difficult sometimes as an artist. You're going to stress by like working a lot. However, you remember why you love it to begin with. It's because you were so drawn into it, because you were intrigued by this art. And you can't really just like put too much pressure on yourself because at the end of the day, you're really doing it for the love of it. It's not really for the money. The money is the grand prize at the end of it, but doing the art is the main prize. That is the main thing you should be going through with that.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Your beadwork has reached so many people and inspired countless others. What's your vision of where you want your art to go next?
I really want to do the Met Gala one day.
Okay.
I because there's been natives like Quanah Chasing Horse and Lily Gladstone that have done the Met Gala. I it's been my work has made it to the Met Gala once for um an outfit that me and my sister did back in 2020, and the people that we beaded for actually made it to the Met Gala. So, and that was news to us. We didn't find out till like the Met Gala was over that it was there. And I
Of
was like, wait a
course.
minute, hold on, are you sure? And
Of
so then
course.
like he was there and we were like, oh my gosh, that was a big excitement for me and my sister because we worked on that outfit during the pandemic and he got to wear it at basically fashion's biggest night, and that was amazing. But I would really say like red carpet events. Hopefully one day. I'm not trying to like manifest it too much because I feel like if I manifest it or pray on it a lot, it's never gonna happen. But hopefully one of these days I get that opportunity to beat for somebody that will like, I don't know, attend like the Grammys or the Oscars, even the Golden Globes, something like that. Because we have a lot of native actors coming out now that deserve the recognition they should be doing because a lot of our people are very talented within acting. So I hopefully one day I get the opportunity to beat for somebody and they get to walk the red carpet with my work. That's really where I hope my work ends up next. So, yes.
Well, I'm rooting for you. I'm really excited for you and what's coming for sure. Are there any styles or techniques that you haven't tried yet that you're excited to explore?
I would say probably single stitching. That's like really what Jamie Okuma does when it comes to like feeding animals. And I've always like really wanted to do that because it's not only just like one needle at a time, but she's adding on different colors and textures. She's not doing like one shade or two shades. She's doing like, I don't know, about like 50 shades of everything into one piece. And I've always been like, I really want to do that. Her work is so amazing. And as someone who's more powwow oriented, who's trying to break out of that shell to do more um fashionable stuff, I really would like to do that. But since
Hmm.
I really grew up like around powwows, I've always been someone that does like two needle stitch when it comes to feeding animals, or even sometimes like lazy stitching or single stitching or like straight stitching with one needle. But single stitching the way Jamie Okuma does, or even like Alyssa Songoy, who is also a very amazing artist. I would like to do what they do one day. I know it's going to take a lot of practice, but I'm willing to take the practice over just like going into it blindly. So definitely
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You've been beading for years now, and how has your style evolved over time? And yeah, where do you see it heading?
Um, my style has changed a lot. In my teenage years, it was always like about putting in like a rainbow, like a straight rainbow scheme into flowers. and just doing like very colorful stuff. And that part hasn't changed, but the rainbow schemes have definitely changed. I've been more into like doing like solid florals. So like 5 colors into like one flower sometimes, or just like really get that inspiration from like old like Cree florals and doing it to my own thing. Like that's really where I've really changed a lot. I would like to revert back to when I was younger and do it a lot better, but as time goes by, you just realize like you gotta like leave some stuff, like some old techniques or styles behind in order to get to that part of what you really want to do.
Hmm.
I've really changed when it comes to geometrics also. I was raised on doing straight stitching for geometrics, and I've always had a hard time with that. So I really went to doing lazy stitching when it comes to geometrics, and that's really been better for me. And since I've always like learned about other tribe designs, some tribes beating other tribes designs have been very difficult. So I've always just kind of taken my time with it. But that that's really what has changed from doing like old style. I wouldn't say old style designs, but straight stitching, more less busy work into beating more like other things that come into one piece. I would say like I've really changed from being the how would you word it? Someone who's really old style beadwork, I guess you can say, into contemporary. That's really where my shift has really changed, and it really changed during the pandemic. So
Oh, okay. Okay. So, what is your creative process like? Do you like to listen to music? Do you binge on your favorite shows, or is it all about that quiet focus?
I really jump back and forth with watching TV or stuff on my phone and music. Music has really been that type of escape from like the outside world so I can focus on what I'm actually doing.
Hmm.
And I grew up listening to country, but I'm not really much of a country person anymore. When I was a teenager, I got really more into like rock and metal music. And so people find it like strange or like you're listening to like really harsh music to something that you're trying to relax to do. And I was just like, it helps because you're just like so focused. And at some point, like when you're listening to metal, it's kind of like white noise.
Mm, mm,
So it white noise is supposed to like I guess keep you relaxed or focused on one thing or something. Like I'm not really a scientist when it comes to that type of stuff, but I've always really listened to metal bands and rock bands, Evanescence being one of my biggest um bands that I've listened to. I've Since I was like 6 years old, I've always been into their music, and their music has really helped me stay focused with what I'm doing. So definitely.
right on, right on. If your beadwork could tell a story out loud, what do you think it would say?
That's kind of difficult, honestly, because I've always just really been more of a floral person. I would say like it probably tell a story of a person or an animal walking through a garden. Because I'm more floral oriented. I love doing florals, so it would probably have to work along those lines. Um, I like I said, I've been learning animals. I'm starting to bead like people more often these days. I just haven't really shown off that side of it a lot. But I would really have to tell a story of like a man or a woman walking through like the woodlands and comes across like this beautiful patch of flowers.
Mm, mm.
And then I would probably even say like I don't know, like a deer running through a field and catches like one of the most colorful things you'll ever see. because not only do I like long stories, but I would say like my work would probably be put into like probably like not even like a paragraph of a story, but it would definitely say something like that.
Oh, very nice. Can you give us a fun fact? What's something about you that most people wouldn't guess?
That's very hard because growing up, I would always share a lot of stuff about myself. I was very um extroverted, I guess the word is, when I was a teenager, but as I got into adulthood, I've been more introverted. I would say that the fun fact about me, I like my peace and quiet more than I do going out partying and being around a bunch of other people. I guess you can say I'm also a little bit antisocial too and introverted now, but I really found like work being my main criteria, my
Hmm.
main thing.
Hmm.
So I've always been the type of person that has to stay busy. And
Okay.
I grew up around being told like you have to stay busy. If you're bored, we're gonna find something for you to do, type of thing. And
Yeah.
so I've always just been like, well, I better find something to do because I don't want to be bored. So it would definitely have to be that.
Right on, right on. Well, before we go, is there anything that you would like to share with the listener, or is there anything that you would like us to walk away with?
Um, about what I said about how you respond to people being like saying stuff to you about your art. Um, you don't want to be rude when you're saying something back. Like you're gonna have your moments where you get fed up and say something back. A lot of us have had those moments, but
Yes.
at the end of the day, like it doesn't make up who you are as a person, especially as an artist. Um, I've always done my best to be very quiet when it comes to people that try and say stuff about me, about my work, specifically about my work, and I've always just been like quiet about it. But there was one event where someone was saying stuff about me, and I kind of just lost it on them, which was actually my fault, really. Um, but at the end of the day, like we're all people. We're not perfect. We make mistakes, and we just have to really apologize for that, even if they don't want to hear the apology. Like we can always like be say sorry, and that's really where I would have to say like you always have to be very respectful. Even just one event, someone would probably try and say something to you about it, but at the end of the day, like you're gonna have a lot more people. Not a lot more people because that'd be horrible, um but you would definitely would have to say stay silent, and you have to be mindful of what is being said also. So like if someone were to say like you're not even from this tribe, why are you doing these florals, you or this design, stuff like that, you can always like answer back like I was taught these designs, someone gave me permission to do them. And or you could just like not respond at all and just keep going on with what you're doing.
Hmm. Well, giving grace is never a bad gift, right?
Yeah.
So it's on how we manage ourselves when we respond. That's great advice. Well, Kaleb, this conversation has been inspiring, and your dedication to your beadwork and the way you honor your heritage and through your art is incredible. So, to everyone that's listening, follow Kaleb's work, support Indigenous artists, and keep learning about these incredible creators. Kaleb, before we go, where can the guests find your work? Where can they connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram at Kaleb Lee Official, and you can find my beadwork page on Facebook, Kaleb Lee Designs.
There you go. There you go. As you're listening to this, pull out your phone and check Kaleb out. So, Well, that's it for today's episode of Beyond the Arts. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and keep celebrating Indigenous creativity. So until next time, keep creating and keep sharing your art.
Kaleb Lee reminds us that beadwork is storytelling, a thread of culture passed from one generation to the next. His devotion to family, community, and craft continues to shine through every piece he makes. We thank him for sharing his heart and his artistry, and for carrying forward traditions that connect us all. This is Beyond the Art.